I know that you guys tend to describe yourselves as death metal. Is that typically how you guys relate to the music you make?
It's accurate. Yeah,
Yeah, I
most
would say
definitely.
so. I mean,
Yeah.
early on in the band, we used the term like brutal grinding death metal or like brutal blasphemous death metal or stuff like that. But those were all kind of terms that we used before a lot of those styles were kind of established into their own thing. And I think at a certain point, you know, we just went more with death metal. It's always been death metal has always been the key factor in what we do. And yeah, I think that's an accurate description because, we're not just one thing necessarily. We're just, we our music is a little more, I want to say super, but it's definitely not just what some people might consider death metal. I mean, there's definitely aspects of doom in there. I would even say kind of grindy kind of sound to it, some atmospheric kind of stuff. But I mean, to go around and say like, to try to pinpoint all those aspects and say that's our style would be too much. Plus, I like the term just death metal because it's broad enough where it could almost be anything within, an aggressive style of music and stuff. I think it's a perfect term for the band. That's the long answer.
I mean, the interpretations of it's
Go
like the
ahead.
interpretations of death metal anymore. It's like, it started with one aspect and then turned into something else entirely. When black metal first came out, it was Venom, and that could have been anything from like associations with Motorhead and like, and just like that dirty raw kind of like three-piece thing. But now if you say black metal to somebody, that could mean anything. It could be atmospheric, operatic, it could be like in all the sub factions thereof. And it's the same thing for death metal.
Yeah, there's so many subgenres now. It's like I kind of realized that keeping it at death metal is the most accurate because it's, I mean, I don't know, the subgenre yourself out so much, it seems silly because it's like the last thing you want to do is limit yourself. You know, in reality, you could say it's all heavy metal, but at least death metal is like, okay, it's not too much subgenre out, because like I said, now there's like all these niches that are like, it's like, holy crap. It's like things are just getting like ridiculous. You don't have to nitpick it. It's like, death metal, black metal, heavy metal, power metal. I mean, that's almost, commercial metal, whatever you want to say. Like that's like enough. Like, you don't need to go, this is the minute death metal subgenre of whatever you like,
It's like
porno
Yahtzee.
grind death
Yeah,
metal,
exactly.
like nitpicking
Yeah.
as fuck.
I mean, there's these new new forms that develop, and then people always say like, oh, do you admire like the tape trading days or like the formations of death metal, and it's always like revered. But then if you were to say like, okay, well, Slam only came out a few years ago, are people doing the exact same thing for Slam? Is there a cult demo trading Slam society? Do you know what I mean? Like and you can keep on just adding and adding and adding, so we could be like shoe staring cavernous Slam. Do you know what I mean? Like it just keeps on going. So death metal, it's accurate.
Yeah, death metal, it's simple, it's pure, it's all encompassing. I can't even say it.
Yeah, you got it.
Thanks.
You all have this new album out, Unholy Deification. Where does the title come from?
Chuck.
So it is probably the way to all encompass. It's a concept album. So over 10 different stages of an individual becoming a deity. And every single aspect of ritual magic was touched upon. Everything from demonology and symbols to chalices, ritual circles, altars, summoning a spectral guide in order to, further and advance this leaving of the material or mortal plane and to exist as something that's worshipped, feared, graven, sacrificed to, coming omnipresent, feeding off of the belief that people give to it, and then becoming like the most, the embodiment of evil.
There's a number of
So
incredible tracks that you guys have already even released a number of videos for this album. Um, is there, John, a particular song that stands out for you that's maybe one of your favorites even to play, let alone to create?
Well, I mean, I'm happy with all of them, and they're all very special to me. But the Invocation one is a special one just because of the way it was organized. I mean, I think it's a great song. Don't get me wrong; it's not just because of the way we came up with it, but I think the reason why it's a great song is because of the way we came up with it. It's because we all really put in our you know own 2 cents into it. It was like a real band practice, just going. And we just had, if I remember correctly, we had like maybe a little riff section that I came up with and a riff section that Chuck came up with. And one of us brought up the idea of just trying to make something work between those two riffs or something. And then basically, for lack of a better word, like a synergy happened at practice where everyone just kind of started getting inspired and putting in their 2 cents on the song, and it ended up getting created in a real really spontaneous. It was really short time of just working on the song to coming up with the whole structure. It's just like one of those magical moments where things just fall together super quick, super fast. And and it basically, like, what, 10, 5, 10, 20 minutes of working on the song. It really didn't change much at all since then. It was just added upon, as far as, we added the leads to it, we added the vocals to it, and some atmospheric stuff, like, and stuff like on our own part of it. But the structure of the song was just like, bam, like, it was just it was an intense experience. And it was great because everybody had input on the structure of the song, and it was just great to have that kind of collaboration, because being in a band, to being a songwriter, to have that kind of band vibe of everybody contributing to something just makes for a very inspiring and special vibe. You know, it doesn't matter if one of us comes up with a majority of a song and it's a great song, that's great. And it's still a part of the whole thing and it's awesome. But when we all contribute to something and it comes out great, that is makes it more special for us, because we're doing it as the team, that the band that we are. We're brothers in metal, and it's great to be able to create stuff in that fashion.
Chuck, is there a song on there that maybe challenged you all then the most creatively when it came to coming up with either a concept or figuring out the verses and the bridge, or, the structure for it as well?
Well, I mean, to be honest, like I wrote the entire lyrical content in its entirety and just presented it as such, and then we will, eventually find which song in particular fits to which set of lyrics. And they in turn also get edited. And there's other processes involved with that. Some portions get omitted, others get added. It's just the maneuvering of um, the words to the music, and that has its own atmosphere, obviously. So you don't want to like jumble it up with a billion different paraphrasings or too many syllables or things like that. So they do get manipulated in some fashion, no matter what. But for anything that stands out in particular, no, it's usually after the fact. The writing process is something that, like, just to reiterate what John was saying, is that, it's fluid right now. The chemistry that we have between the four of us, not just as bandmates, but friends, has been, exceptional. You can see by the amount of output that we put. I mean, the output that we have. Um, it's amazing when you can sit down and just go, I got this, and then, in a few moments, next, it's very rewarding. And this kind of writing process hasn't been actually in the band for some time, so it's refreshing in a lot of ways. And it's mostly due to having Luke's involvement as well. His contributions end up shaping things in a billion different directions we never thought possible. And he's more like a one take wonder kind of guy. So when he presents something, it's like, Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, sure. And then you're doing it again next, and
Yeah.
you just move on.
And I think it's going to help the writing process in the future because, you know, we're able to work so well together with this lineup in the band that it just, it gives you that inspiration. Like, oh, you want to write more. I mean, we all write a lot. Everyone in the band is totally capable of coming up with their own song, start to finish. That's great. But the fact that we could do something that's really, like you could just bring a couple of ideas to practice and just totally vibe off it is a fantastic way to write because it, it's not just expressing yourself, it's expressing other people's perception of what you're doing, which is really awesome as a songwriter.
A very unique experience for I think so many minds to get along so quickly as well and gel so well. I think when there's so many people in the band, usually it takes you in different directions, but it sounds like you all have developed this wonderful cohesiveness together.
Without a doubt.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And it's not something to be taken lightly, I mean, um, a lot of bands and even, Incantation at times has been something where, you know, I would just say like myself would just come up with a basic structure of a whole song and just bring it in. And pretty much it would just be, Kyle and myself at certain times in the band's history working on the song. And then other people, would come in and contribute to it. But it would be pretty much set in stone how it is. And it's so much nicer to have other people come in and say, oh, maybe this is a better idea, or let's try this or whatever, and have it be um embraced instead of like pushback. Like I know there's other bands out there where one guy will write everything and be like, this is how the song goes, and that's it. And just play your part and get in line. And it's not like that at all. I mean, no matter how excited we are on a certain part or a certain riff, it's like it's all subject to being thrown out or rearranged or rewritten if someone else comes up with a better idea. And the only way it's going to happen is that when you have that when you're not selfish and you work and you have people that are in the same wheel wells of ideas, want the same thing out of the band, then it can work together properly. Yeah, when you do have that one or maybe two people in a band that have a different goal or different perception or is concerned about different things, it totally could, for lack of a better word, fuck up the whole chemistry of writing as a team, because writing as a team is what, for me, a band is for, and is a great thing.
Then when it comes to the production side, John, let me ask you this. Do you guys tend to have full say in the construction then of that aspect of the music you all make?
Production wise, yeah, I mean, we all definitely have a say. I mean, that's probably the most difficult part of the whole process. Is not, I mean, Dan Swano has done the production for the last, what, 4 or 5 albums. I don't even remember how many, but
Four or
and he does
five,
a
I think
great
it's.
job. And no matter what he sends is great. So it's not about like, is the production great, but is the production the way we want the songs the sound is have the right vibe and personality in the production. And that could always be a little difficult because everybody does have a habit of focusing in on their parts. So I might be concerned about the way the vocals sound or the way the guitars cut through something, but I might, even though I try my hardest to concentrate on the other instruments too, it's only natural that like, all the guitars sound great, so I'm like super happy, but maybe something, say, I don't know, drum wise or something, isn't having the right sound, the right cut or something like that. So it takes a little negotiation between everybody and trying to find the way that everybody can get what they want out of the mix without ruining the mix, because you really have to be able to look at it as not as the musicians playing it, but listening to it, and um, is it expressing what we're trying to express? And that's probably the hardest part of of mixing something is putting yourself, say, in the eyes of a fan of what you're doing, and not as the composer of it. Chuck?
Yeah, no, I mean, as John was saying, like everybody's going to focus on their own instrument. And, during the editing process, we find ourselves making time signature notes and say, like, at this point, I want this up or this down and this and that. And it becomes like a real scrutinizing situation to where you're spending sometimes weeks or even months for that matter of like, we have the template down exactly how you want it because there might be like even like preset buttons that maybe Dan has in regards to like dealing with us specifically. But then once we put our ears to it, ah, you're listening to it on headphones and speakers in your car, outside, inside, like, in rain. It's like it gets really ridiculous, to where you just, overly focus upon it in order to try to like make it for the better of the whole as opposed to the individual. So if I'm going like, hey, wait a minute, I did a fill there, I don't hear it, but like, does it compromise the song? Maybe it doesn't. Does it add to it? Maybe. But then again, it's like, you have to get everybody's involvement in order for that to even work too. So it's a tedious process, but it's rewarding.
You do have to be like we are with songwriting, is not selfish about it too, and think about the overall sound of the recording, because like I was saying before, you could easily over focus on what you're doing, and sometimes you miss the big picture in the situation. And but that's what Dan Swano's there for, is to look at it in the big picture and stuff, and the great thing about this album is that I think Dan was really excited at one of our German shows he showed up to. And I think he really got inspired by the live performance onto what direction to go with the mix. And it ended up being a great starting point for the mix. And I'm really happy with the way it came out, because I do feel that, you're able to listen to it as a good production, but it doesn't take away from the barbaric aspects that need to be there, and the chaos that needs to be there, and the darkness that needs to be in with it, because it needs to have all that stuff, but also like you want it to be easy to listen to, and you want it to be sonically proper, but without it being like sterile.
I'm curious. There's a number of guests that you guys feature on this album, from Jesse to Henry, excuse me, from Jeff to Henry to Dan. How did all of you come together?
Well, I mean, basically, Jeff Pizzaro from Possessed is a huge influence on all of us in the band. So it was a kind of no-brainer to have him be a part of it. We wanted a chanty part on the album, so we figured we would get some people that meant something to us. And obviously Jeff was a big influence, and pretty much like point one of death metal's beginning with Possessed and stuff. And then also Henry Vegian, for me personally, was a very important person to have, because he's the one that really gave my first opportunity in my former band Revenant. So to have him a part of it is also very sentimental to me. And then Dan Vladovon has been touring with us, filling in for Chuck when he can't do the touring. So it just seemed like a no-brainer to have him in the whole mix too, because he has been doing a great job for the band, and it's great to have him actually a part of the album, even in a small way. But it's just very cool, because it's, for us, it's more I don't know what the right word is, like not sentimental, but it's like it's important for us to have them involved in the album. And what's not as much, it's not for like publicity purposes, it's more personal, or something, a personal cool thing that we feel is the right thing to do, we'll say.
Yeah, it's not like we collected these folks so we could name drop and sell more albums.
Sure.
But a lot of bands do that. A lot of bands will
Oh
have
yeah,
these
sure,
people
of
on here
course.
and try to milk it out. I mean, I can't remember, but I remember there was like some release where like I don't know if it was Chris Barnes or someone sang on, and it's like the whole like press release was all about how Chris Barnes sang like one part on the album, and it's just like, well, I sure hope the album is way better than just the one part that one dude sang on. I mean,
Yeah.
it should be an added bonus or a side thing, not like your whole album
Focus, the
promotion.
whole focus on his
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
case thing.
if the chant part at the end of what the one song was, what's the last song?
circle,
Altar,
circle,
Circle.
circle.
Yeah, and Circle. Yeah, if that chant part was the only part that got publicity for a new album, we would definitely be fucked.
Yeah. I mean, there's even people that have like throughout the feedback and everything that have said like if it wasn't actually marked down, it might have been like just kind of lost and went under the radar. So, it's cool that we, were able to, attach that association because we wanted their association with it. It's not, well, I'm repeating myself, but it's not just for name dropping. Yeah.
Well, Chuck, you've said this album is about evolution through enlightenment. Is that what you hope lingers with people who explore unholy deification?
I mean, I think that that term in and of itself was like I think changed and paraphrased. I see it as a journey. So the individual listener will be following with this, acolyte that no longer wanted to subsist on ethics and belief and wanted to supersede that, and all of the different ways in order to come to that end conclusion. I see it more as a journey. Enlightenment. I don't believe anybody's going to follow this album in order to enlighten themselves. It would just be, I mean, it's death
It would
metal.
be
You know what I
nice
mean?
if they
Like,
did. Like, holy fuck.
yeah, I mean, we even heard jokes about people saying like, if you put the Roman numerals in sequential order, does Satan come out? Like, sure, like why not? Uh, at risk of being possessed by the album, by all means, listen to it. Yeah.
Well, you and I touched on, Chuck, that you guys are already back working on new music, but will there be a tour or some upcoming dates that you'll be performing to highlight this new album?
Yeah, I mean, we're planning on doing full proper tour cycle for the new album. We already have some stuff in the works. It's mostly stuff we can't announce yet, but we do have what we have the Fields of the Dead Fest in Arkansas coming up. We have Hell in Heaven Fest in I think it's in Guadalajara, Mexico, I know it's in Mexico.
I think it's
That's
Mexico City.
it was in Mexico City, that one?
I
Okay.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there is
Mass
Mass
destruction.
Destruction. Yes, that one's coming up. And then we also have the what's that town in
Oh,
Quebec?
Three Rivers.
Yeah, it's Trice Rivers or whatever. Yeah, it's basically Three
Trifroid
Rivers Fest
or
there
Trois.
too. Those are the ones I think we have announced yet. And then I know as far as festivals go, there is been talks recently of August, like in Europe, to do some a festival run again, but nothing that we could announce yet, unfortunately.
Enough. Okay. um, John and maybe Chuck, you can jump in as well. What would you like to say to people who are fans and supporters of the incredible music you all make?
Um, Go ahead, Chuck.
Uh, Cliche as it is, and I repeat it often, is that we would be nothing without their support. And when you go to a show and they're like, "Oh, you guys are so humble and this and that," and I'm like, "Yeah, but we can't be here without you here." Do you know what I mean? Like the amount of appreciation that we have for every single individual, whether they came around the corner to come and see us or take a 15-hour train to come and see us. Every single one of them is very, very important to us. The people that make that extreme effort, I don't know if I would even do that myself. I don't know if I would jump onto a train for 15 hours to go see to see a show, but they do it, and that is something not to take lightly. That amount of kind of dedication and devotion to what we do is something that we hope that we can reciprocate through every show that we do, and every album that we put our, you know, put our souls into. So
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Chuck's exactly right. I mean, you know, first of all, we look at ourselves as, music and metal fans, so, we don't look at it as, well, let's say we appreciate all the people that like our music and go out to our shows. It's all appreciated, like Chuck just said. So it's very humbling, especially because we're writing music that's honest to ourselves, and we're not necessarily trying to crowd please, but because of that fact, our connection with um, the fans and the supporters is even stronger because they're enjoying us expressing ourselves honestly and not not making it for their consumption, we'll say. So it's definitely really cool, and we're very grateful. And I think it shows in our performance too, because every time we perform, we give 100% regardless of the size of the crowd, a big crowd, small crowd, medium crowd, excited crowd, mellow crowd, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. They all get
Doesn't matter.
100% of what we have inside of us. If they're gonna make that trip to the show, no matter how far away it is, and pay for a ticket to come see us play, they deserve the best show they could possibly get. So we're always it's very important to us. It's never, we never look down upon the crowd. We look, we're equals to the crowd. We want to give them everything they're giving to us, give back to them.
I mean, just for an example, Luke and I came downstairs in Costa Rica at one point. We were just hanging out with the crowd, and there was two guys at the bar, and we were just getting a drink ourselves. They turned around and they just started just having a meltdown. They're like, "Why are you here?" What do you mean, why? You know, like that's not a question.
It's our show.
Yeah, and like and
we're hanging out.
Why are you talking to us? This is the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, but it should be something that people do. Yes, and then I said, well, what are you guys drinking? No, 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 we're buying you a drink. Yeah, but like, I want you to have a drink. Like I don't know. There's like a humanity as well involved with this, that no matter who you meet, uh, you get to experience, how they experienced it, which makes you, almost a fan and puts you in that fan perspective. Without that interaction, oof, your brain can go in any direction. You could say, "Oh, I'm total shit," or I'm the greatest thing in the world, and like, and that doesn't work. That's just not how it is. You catch us any day of the week. This is us. I mean, we can't be any different.
Yeah.
So with that, by taking that to the stage and taking that and putting that into our albums, that by the time you actually meet them face to face, they're like, what part of Europe you're from? I'm not. That illusion that gets perpetuated by them, and then by the time those barriers are broken down, none of us are delusional.
Yeah, we tour and play shows with lots of bands, and a lot of bands, they just they want to hang out backstage, they want to just chill out or whatever.
Sure.
That's up to them if they want to do that. But for us, it's like, we're metalheads. We want to go out and say what's up to people. We want to see some of our friends that might have came out to the show or might have been seeing us multiple times in the past, and say what's up to them and thank them for coming out. It's just a normal thing. It's not really any real thought put into it. It's just us just being us.
Yeah, I mean, and it has nothing to to put a shame or anything like that to those that actually do not go down to visit the crowd. By all means, don't. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a matter of prerogative. Like, for our own part, we like to do that. Not everybody does. And I'm not going to shame them for that. You stay behind, man. Maybe they had like, yeah, I mean, maybe they had a terrible experience or something like that drove them to go, I'm not going out there. Like, that happens. And who am I to tell them otherwise, right? So do what you want. We're just doing what we want.
Yes.